probability. So we talked about probability. We had several lessons on it. Yes. Do we all remember probability is all about what general topic? Probability is looking at what? Sarah? Estimating what's going to happen. That's great. Okay. So it's often dependent on how many objects or how many events that occur and how many positive things we're looking at. But sometimes they don't just write information down, they actually display it on a diagram or ask you to display what's going on a diagram. Okay? One way is using a grid. So for example here it says use a two-dimensional grid. Two-dimensional just means a flat on a piece of paper. To illustrate the sample space. Now the sample space is what, how, oh gosh. The sample space is how we describe the options that we can have. So for example, if we're having, if there are coins being tossed, you've got a mixture of heads and tails. So we want to make sure that we've got all the different combinations. So the sample space looks at the options. Okay, so which options do we have once we've got this kind of activity going on? So illustrate the sample space for tossing a coin and rolling a die simultaneously. What does simultaneously mean? Because words like this come up quite a lot. Basika? Not doing it over. What does simultaneously mean, James?
Repeating it until every
No, that's a similar thing that Basika said. Simultaneously. If I said things happen simultaneously.
This is a guess, like either out of the ordinary or ordinary.
No, right, neither of those, right, Kaya?
I was going to say random.
No. Well, this is good then. This is words that we don't know.
Similar.
Not similar. Not really. Simultaneously means at the same time. Okay? Simultaneously means at the same time. So if I said that an event or two events happen simultaneously, it means that they're happening at the same time. Okay? So that's a good word to try and remember, because these kinds of things do come up, and if you're sitting in a test and you see this fancy word and you're not sure what it means, then you could get stuck. Okay? Or you might be able to guess, or you'd have a go at the question as best you could, but if you weren't sure, then it might throw you a little bit. So simultaneously means at the same time. It then says from this grid, determine the probability of these things happening. So the first thing we have to do is draw our grid. Now, I've got one drawn for you because I thought it was going to save a little bit of time. You can see on the left, we've got coin. Okay? So what we do is we say to ourselves, well, what are the options when I toss a coin? What are the options? How many options do I have and what are they? Sarah?
You have two options of the next.
Good. Okay, so they summarise that by just writing H and T. Yes? How about rolling a die? How many options do I have, Madison? How many options do I have when I roll a die? 6. Okay? And those options are, Georgie? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, usually. Sometimes they get counts, but usually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's what they've got down here, yes? Now, they use the grids to see, well, what are my options? Because we could have had a head and a 1. That's what that dot there represents. Basika, what does this dot here represent? 4. What does the H mean? Head. So this represents I've got a head on the coin. Not 4 times. What are we throwing? What we're doing? We're tossing a coin and we are. Pardon? On the die. Yes? Are we all happy with that? So then what does this cross here represent, Madison? This particular cross, what does that represent? 6 what? The die was 6 and the coin was tails. Okay, yes? Are we understanding what's going on?
They're rolling a dice.
Yes, so at the same time we've got a dice in one hand and a coin in the other. Okay, so I'm tossing the coin and rolling the dice. And we're seeing what we've got. And so this grid helps us decide what are all the different options. Because if we just did that, we might just randomly write some of the options that we have. But we need to make sure that we've got all of the possible options. Alright, so let's just make sure. Kaya, what does this dot here represent?
It represents his 200 die and it's landed on tails for
Nice. Yes. Okay, are we getting it? Okay. So there are our options. So from the grid, we should be able to quite quickly see how many options there are. Okay, so all of these dots here represent how many options. How many options are there? How many dots are there in this grid? Georgie? 12. Yeah. So it says here there are 12 members in the sample space. Okay. Now the number of members in the sample space is important because that's going to tell us what our denominator is. Do you remember? Because it's at what is our favourable or what are we interested in that goes on the top, and how many possible options are goes on the bottom. So our denominator for all of these would be 12. Okay? So then the first question says tossing ahead. So we have to look at this grid now. How many of these dots are given outcome where a head was tossed? So how many of these dots indicate that our answer, one of our things was a head? Right? Of these dots, just this one?
the 5.
This one? Any others? How many of them had a head? What about this one? Did this not have a head?
No. It's not highlighted.
What did this represent?
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the yellow. I'm not looking at the yellow. These are the options. These are the 12 options. 6 of them, yes? So because this one is a 3 and a head. Remember we just went through a few of them, didn't we? And people told me what they represented. So Madison, what does this dot represent? 2 and a head. What does this dot represent? And okay, so all of these on the bottom are where we had a head. Do you understand that? So all on the bottom are heads. So how many of those dots represent where we threw a head? 6. Yes? So our numerator is going to be 6, and we said our denominator was 12. Yes? Now, what have they done to get 1/2? Maya? Simplify it. Do you have to simplify it? No, remember probability is the one time you don't have to. Alright? So we could have left our answer as 6 over 12. Now, you may have said, well hang on, that's obvious, because on a coin we've got half of the heads, half of the tails. You may have gone straight to 1/2. Fine. But I'm just showing you how the grid helps us as well. Okay, because the question just says tossing ahead. Okay, so if I said to you, Jane, what does this dot here represent? What does that represent? Okay, a 5 on the die and tails on the coin. Okay, so is that a head?
No.
Okay, so that's not going to be an R3. What about this dot here? Why? Because that's a 4 head. Okay. What about this one? What about this dot here? No? This one? Okay, so how many of you are going to say, how many of these dots are you going to say yes to because it landed on a head? All of these ones, yes? How many of those are there? And so that's why our number was 6 on the top, out of the possible 12 options we had. Okay, it may become a little bit more easier in the
I'm
second one.
confused.
Okay, so let me move on to the next one, and maybe you may go, oh, I see now. Because sometimes doing different ones might help. Okay? So the second option, it says just rolling a 2. Now, are we interested in focusing on the coin side or the die
What
side?
questions are we looking at? The top one?
So these are the questions here,
Yeah.
and then these are the answers. I'm explaining, you haven't had to write down anything, I need to explain how we got these answers. Okay? So if we're rolling a 2, are we concentrating on the rows or the columns? Sarah?
Are you doing this text on the road? It says I'm rolling a 2, so you have to look at the 2, and then you look at the 2 dots and the 2 space. So that means it'll have to be 2, and this out of 12 to be 2 out of 12, and then you figure that out, and I think it's 1/6.
Good go, yes. Now, can we see that these 2 dots, especially Jade and Abby,
Why are we changing it to 1/6?
okay, you don't have to, but it is an option to simplify. Remember in our fractions topic, we can simplify this because 2 goes into both of these numbers.
You only have to simplify
Okay,
the
so you don't have to simplify it. Okay, you can if you wish.
Okay.
Alright, so then do you see, Abby, now why it was 2 over 12?
Yeah.
Jade?
Mm-hmm.
Do you go back to the head? Did you understand why that one was 6 over 12?
Yes. Kind of.
So again, Abby, you knew this was 2 over 12 because these 2 were the only ones that matched up with this.
Yeah.
Okay, how many of them matched up with the headline?
6.
So that's why it was a 6 over 12. They're all over 12 because there are 12 dots. Yeah? Alright, so the next question says getting a tail and a 5. Now, they're very specific here. So you have to get a tail and a 5. So of these dots, how many are a tail and a 5, Sika? Just the one. It's just this. No, totally not that one. Just this one here is a tail and a 5. So that's 1 out of 12. That's 1 out of 12. Yeah. The last one is a tail or a 5. Okay? So we have to think how many of them were tails? Well, we've got 6.
And 2.
And then we've got this additional one.
So 2.
Well,
7.
so there was 6 there and then this one makes
Oh, plus
7.
1. And then so you plus them to 7 plus?
Yes. Now, we wouldn't say 6 plus 2 because we've already counted that one. Does that make sense? So that's why the grids sometimes help us because you are less likely to make a mistake by counting something twice. Okay? So we've got our 6 tails plus additional 1 makes 7 out of 12. Okay?